This is
This is
the Real Talk No Cap podcast.
Episode 5, Young Imams.
Welcome to the Real Talk No Cap podcast. This is your host, Mariah Muhammad No, and I'm with my co-host, Abdul Hamid. Say what's up, Betty.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're doing something a little bit different today. Usually we do our sessions in our office and in the round table. Today, I want you to tell them where we at, Hamid.
We're in the city of Lacey, a community that is established by some Cham elders. Over time, it grew, and now they recruited our brother from Seattle, Imam Sufyan, and mashallah, they continue to grow.
By popular demand, we had to bring you back Sufyan. The man, Sufyan. Everybody missed you, man. Yours was a really popular topic, so I had to bring you on. We wanted to do something different, though. Today, we're not going to talk about a specific issue. We're going to talk about you. We want to know about you. I think you have a great story that you can share with the people. And I think it's something that's really needed because you're not are you computer scientist? You ain't.
No, never.
Doctor?
I don't even know what that is.
Computer science? You don't know what a computer scientist is?
Doctor, yeah.
Come on,
I might be able to save lives, but, ultimately it's in the hands of Allah. But
Alhamdulillah.
doctor.
I think you're doing a job that is saving lives.
Inshallah,
so
man.
we want to talk to you about it, actually. It's not, I would say that there's a very limited amount in the world, actually. Wouldn't you say that, Hamid? I mean, how many think of these do we have in Seattle? 10?
Possibly. We got about 15 masjid and probably like 2/3 of it got
Right.
full-time imam.
So as you guys know, Sufyan, he's the imam of the Islamic Center of Olympia.
Yeah.
Right. So he's a young man that took this profession, and a lot of people might be wondering, like, why?
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of car you drive, Sufyan? Camry?
Toyota Camry.
I don't want to drive no Camry, brother. These kids don't want to drive no Camry.
Yeah.
So today we're here, and we want to know, what is the imam? Why did you choose to be imam?
Mm-hmm.
How'd you even come to this? We're actually going to get started because for me, growing up, I thought the imam was somebody that just led the prayers. That's what you dedicated your whole life for, just to lead the prayers, Sufyan? Like, what's going on? Tell us about it.
First off, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa
This
rahmatullahi
is
wa
how y'all
barakatuh.
doing, how y'all living. The question that Brother Marami posted or mentioned was, people think that the imams only, they lead prayers or what have you. Initially, that's what I thought was the beginning, like, oh, that's what imams do. But I realized that as an imam, I think I've been imam for about 6 or 7 years, if I can remember. As long as I've been married, that might be a tough one. So I can't forget that, right? So as long as I've been married,
I hope
I've
she's
been
not listening, brother. Come on, you have to know that.
My second wife is the community, so I got to remember that, right? So I think for the most part, when it comes to being an imam, within these 6 or 7 years, I realized that most of the work that an imam does is not what is shown. You don't see that 5 or 10 minutes of dhuhr, asr, maghrib, isha, although it may look easy, but guaranteed most imams, especially during the month of Ramadan, they're grinding, they're working hard. Khutbahs also, that 30 minutes, that time frame that they have with the community is just a glimpse of what they do behind, closed doors.
How long does it take you to maybe prepare for a khutbah?
Basically, after Salatul Jum'ah, after the khutbah, I'm already preparing for the next one. But if something is relative in the community, something that happened in the community or happened globally in the world, I'll change my topic. Say, for example, I remember when the New Zealand shooting happened. I already had a khutbah topic at hand.
Right.
But since it happened, I believe it happened within the week, I changed my topic because that was obviously relevant to what was going on. Yeah.
So Hamid and I were talking about, you became an imam at such a young age. I think, Hamid, you put it clearly. What was the question that you had that you wanted to ask the brother?
A question I had for, the imams and yourself, Imam Sufyan, what were some expectations that you had going into learning the student of knowledge and being an imam? And then when you was established as an imam, what was the reality that you faced and noticed of being an imam?
The expectations and the realities were very, very similar. I expected it to be hard, and wallahi, it was a lot harder. The reality was it was a lot harder. My whole life seeing imams, living in Seattle, South Seattle, I was a community member of CRC or Jami Muslimin. We had Sheikh Abdul Bari, Sheikh Sulaiman, the other Sheikh Sulaiman in Medina. We had Sheikh Tahir, Seed. We had plenty of scholars and teachers that we had. And I saw that it was difficult to guide the community. Ultimately, the guidance is in the hands of Allah. But,
Right.
Them working hard, effortlessly, they're trying so hard to guide the community. And as a kid, seeing them grow up, or me seeing myself grow up and watching them, it was very hard, and I was like, man, why would anybody want this? But obviously the rewards are something that you look for. You might get rewarded and compensated in this dunya, but ultimately it's in the akhirah you're looking for. So the expectation was that it was hard, and in reality, after these 6 or 7 years,
It was harder.
a lot harder.
Can you talk about some of the? Let's circle back back to what you said earlier. You said a lot of what you guys do, people don't see. Can you tell us some of the services that imams provide for
Yeah.
people?
Oh man, there's a lot. Like for example, there's janazas, performing the janazah, performing the prayer. Not necessarily washing the body, but the imam is usually in charge of operating, making sure everything runs according to the Islamic traditions, making sure everything is okay. There's no innovations that are taking place. There's no weird things or awkward things that are taking place within the janazah. Making sure that the person is washed properly, making sure that the family is there, praying the janazah. There's also nikahs, wedding ceremonies, wedding contracts. I see that a lot of times as imams, and I can say it personally for myself, that we are, sometimes in a position that is very uncomfortable for ourselves,
Okay.
where we don't like to be in that position. I'm just speaking for myself. I don't know if there's any other imams out there that are listening, but for myself, I am sometimes in an uncomfortable position where chances are I don't want to do this. If you don't know about myself, I consider myself as an introvert. I like to be alone. I like to be, within my house. I don't want to go anywhere. But being an imam forced me to be a person that I don't want to be, right? It forced me to be an extrovert. It forced me to be a person that has to be engaging, has to be a person that people like. And I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. Because if I didn't have this job or title, whatever you want to call it, I'd just be playing at home, playing video games, bro. Let's be real.
With me,
right?
we're gonna go on that Call of Duty, right?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, let's be real. I just play all day, drink Mountain Dew, eat Doritos. You know what I mean? Like, that's the life, bro.
Mountain Dew is your drinking choice.
Yeah, bro.
Dude, come on, man. You gotta upgrade, brother. A lot of good drinks out here. Ginger beer out here. Come on, brother.
Ginger beer, yeah.
Step up your game. But you said sometimes you're in an uncomfortable position, right? Do you ever have to go into like marital situations?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And I would assume that, everybody got problems. I mean, even sometimes even friends would have to even come to you
Yeah.
and talk about that
Yeah.
and putting you in that type of situation. What is difficult about having to be unbiased in a situation like that?
With the nikahs, as I mentioned, dealing with divorce is even more difficult, or even just marital issues. Some people come, young couples, even older couples. The awkward thing is when an older couple comes. And, being Cham, and when a Cham person comes, they know your parents, they know your mom, they know your dad, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit awkward, and also in Cham tradition, when you're younger, it's not someone that you take knowledge from, you know what I mean? It's not someone that, it's just a little, as we call it, like our jaw, or like, that's just our grandkid or our grandson, you know what I mean? But for them to ask me for advice in their marriage, I know it takes a lot of guts to do that as an older couple, but it is difficult. And if one side leans towards more, like for example, if it's from my family or what have you, that would be a little bit difficult to be biased. So I think being an imam, that's one thing too, is to be free of all bias. That's something that you need to have.
Can I change the pace a little bit? I'm gonna circle back to Hamid. Hamid, being a person that is from a community, what about you? When you were younger, what did you see the imam to be in versus now, especially you working in the community? Do you feel like it's important to have an imam, and what are some important, characteristics that you've seen for an imam to have, especially growing up in a tight-knit community?
Right. I mean, growing up, I see an imam just leading prayer and possibly maybe just teaching, the fundamentals of Islam, learn how to read Quran, learn Arabic, learn a little bit about adab and hadith and the good stuff about
Did
Islam.
you know like they would have to do things like marriage counseling or just personal counseling in
they're
general?
playing multiple hats that I did not see, I think there's a lot of resources that are needed for an individual to grow and develop. And I don't know if I see right now in Seattle and Washington State, I don't see many resources that can help individuals and families that are needed, and
Mm-hmm.
just throw it all into the imam.
Yeah, yeah.
And like expecting the imam to know the answer for it, right? And I feel like that's something that's needed in the community. I mean, Imam Sufyan, do you feel like, you mentioned that, you know, you guys do nikas and, you know, seeking divorce and all these things, that little issues or even bigger issues that individuals and families will face. Do you feel like the imam should have the answers to all of these, or should the
question.
community have more
Yeah.
resources, more like, you know, mental health counselors or established fields?
I think as imams, you know, it happens, you know, I see that, you know, there's a famous statement where they say jack of all trades, master of none. As an imam, I would say it's a jack of all trades. He's a jack of all trades, a master of some. Yeah. You know, not every imam is qualified to be a faqih, a person that knows how to pray, knows how to fast, studies all the books of fiqh, you know, studies all the books of Islamic jurisprudence, for example. Not every imam is you know, his forte is aqidah, is, you know, creed, Islamic creed. There are certain imams, you know, for example, I myself, I studied in Medina, you know, in the Medina Islamic University in Medina, and there was no class that we learned about counseling. There was no class that, for myself, I think it was just out of experience, you know, and hearing people's problems and looking at the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, for example, and how he ﷺ dealt with, you know, certain issues that can maybe perhaps help that individual that I'm talking to. So I see that, you know, imams are just a jack of all trades. They have to be experienced in all of this, but yet understand that not every imam is qualified for that particular field. You know, not every imam do you go for counseling, for example. That imam, for example, is an expert in tazkiyah, which is like purification of the soul. He can get to you and kind of resonate with your heart, and he can make you do things, you know, have this iman rush, as we used to say. Some imams, they don't have that. They're very stern, but they're very good at counseling. They're very good at marriage advice. They can, you know, reconcile. They can help married couples come back together and what have you. So, you know, there is, you know, a lot of imams out there that may have more skills than others, but as long as we have, you know, jack of all trades, have a little touch of something, you know, so we can help the community, inshallah.
I think one thing I wanted to share, I was at a mental health training with the Khalil Center, and they were talking about how people actually wanted spirituality to be part of their counseling. And what made me realize, well, one thing, that training was specifically for imams. I'm not an imam, but, you know, being a school principal, I thought it was really important to kind of check it out and understand, because kind of dealing with some of the same problems. But I thought it was really interesting that people actually want to have spirituality involved in their counseling, because especially being Muslim, I mean, we want to fall back to our fundamentals, which is Islam in there. And it's unfortunate that a lot of imams are not coming out trained, which is not a fault of their own, right? Like you said, people have different strengths, but I think that's something that a focus needs to kind of be on. I also feel like a focus needs to be on connecting to the youth. And, you know, unfortunately, I see in many communities, not to bag on them, but there are some shortcomings when it comes to that. I see many communities bringing an imam that recites very well, you know, has knowledge in the deen, but they grew up in Somalia, or they grew up in Egypt, or they grew up somewhere else where they can't connect to the things that are happening right now. Do you feel like there's, in general, and speaking in general, do you feel like there's a disconnect between imams and specific parts of the community, such as the youth?
Oh yeah, most definitely. You know, I see within the youth that their role models aren't necessarily the imams. They would rather and be glad to listen to someone on YouTube than their imam and their khutbah and their classes, right? I mean, guaranteed sometimes you'll see like a sheikh, a visitor that will come to Seattle, for example, or Olympia, for example. The masjid will be filled to this sheikh, right? And for an imam, you know, seeing that, it kind of makes him like, it discourages. He doesn't want to be, you know, he's not encouraged to do anything anymore. He doesn't want to, he's not motivated to do.
I just taught you that last week, brother.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he has classes, provided classes, 5 people show up, 10 people show up. But this sheikh that comes, you know, that they perhaps listen on YouTube, will come for that weekend. The masjid is filled, and the imam is just like, what am I doing wrong here? You know? So I think there is a big disconnect, and I think that a lot of people don't realize that the imam is their hub of knowledge. That's where you start. A lot of times people come up to me like, yo, Sufyan, I want to study in Medina. Where do I start? I'm like, did you study now? Like, what are you studying now? Have you even tried to study now? They're like, oh, perhaps some people, they just want to go to study in Medina or like overseas for the adventure part. You know what I mean? They don't want to really study. I'm looking at the person like, did you attend your sheikh, your imam's classes? Are you a person that is one of his favorite few? You know what I mean?
Right.
So there is a gap because they may perhaps they don't respect their imam. Maybe they see the good, bad, and the ugly, unfortunately, you know, because that's their imam. They see him every day. Or like Hamid and you guys say that, oh, he just leads prayers, you know, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, you know, and maybe perhaps there's a language barrier as well. They can't relate to their issues. Perhaps there's youth out there, young people that are like, he's not going to understand what I'm going through.
Right.
You know what I mean? Oh, he's 20 years older. Oh, he's from this particular country. Oh, he doesn't really speak English that well. He's not going to understand. He's going to tell me to pray more. He's going to tell me to be closer to Allah, but I don't know how to get closer to Allah. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
So
while we're on that topic, I did want to ask, what about when people come to you with more contemporary issues, such as, you know, I don't know if you ever dealt with it, but like such as non-marital relationships, homosexuality, and a lot of times, I don't want to say they're looking for an excuse, but they're trying to find answers on how to be better or how to avoid these things. And sometimes imams give generic answers, such as be patient or seek knowledge or doing things like this. And it's like people are like, what? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? Do you find yourself in a situation where you're trying to find that balance where I got to give this guy, you know, advice on the deen, but also to have to understand the realities that we deal with, especially in America?
I mean, every person, I think, you know, depends on their situation. So me being an imam, I realize that every single person, everyone in the world has a different situation. So you got to basically, you know, look and you know, look at the bigger picture. At most cases, say for example, someone comes up with an issue, you know, he has an addiction to drugs, for example, and he's like, oh, Sufyan, I need help. How can I help? You know, and if I know that individual and I know that he or she can overcome that addiction easily, then I'll be stern, I'll be strict. But if, for example, a revert brother or sister comes in the community and celebrates Christmas, for example, right? And he's like, oh, you know, my family, you know, is a non-Muslim family. I celebrate Christmas. What should I do, Imam? As for that situation, it's much more different than a born Muslim asking me that same question.
By the way, guys, Merry New Year, guys. Merry New Year.
New Year. Shout out Marshall.
Shout out to Beast Mode.
You know, but you see what I'm saying?
Sorry to interrupt, Sufyan, but while we're on this topic, Hamid, let me ask you something, man. What did you want to be when you grow up, when you were a kid?
Typical answer. I wanted to be a doctor.
Why? Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was because I used to go to my doctor visit with my parents, and then the doctor would call, and I'll be the one answering. And there was always some like a memory that my family would always tell me when someone calls, I'll be like, "Hey, this is Dr. Min."
Shout out
Everybody
Dr. Min.
knows Dr. Min in the community.
He actually gave me my physical for Medina University. I remember that.
It was fake, wasn't it?
Signed it off, huh?
He just signed it off, man. He just signed it off.
That's a topic for another time.
Right.
But the reason why I asked that is because, like, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a cook. I don't know why. I cook horribly, by the way. But also, too, like, I actually wanted to get a job that made a lot of money, like a doctor makes a lot of money.
Right.
Sufyan, you know, when you're telling these guys to prepare, like, hey, do you study in America? You also have to ask them, I feel like the stereotype is you also have to ask these guys, are you ready to live poor? Because I feel imams are undervalued financially.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
I remember I was with Sheikh Suleiman, and I didn't know he was a big sheikh like this. Sheikh Suleiman was sitting he said, let me tell you a funny story. We was at Hajj, right? And then Sheikh Suleiman was like, hey, man, I just saw one of my friends from D.C., when I went to go study over there. He's like, I want to go sit with him.
Yeah.
So he's like, I want to invite you guys to come sit. I was like, yeah, that's cool. So I went there with Sufyan. And then I was like, yo, who's Sheikh Suleiman sitting with? It was Saeed Rage.
Yeah.
Saeed Rage, the famous sheikh, big time. And then Sheikh Suleiman was like, oh, this is my...
He was like a normal guy, average Joe. Like, yeah, my friend from D.C., you know, just hanging out with him.
And when we sat with him, right, Sufyan, he was talking about how what makes a 24-year-old, a 22-year-old want to go study. They come back, sometimes they have to rebuild their life.
Yeah, man.
Right? I mean, I know, and not to downplay on the situation, but we know guys that went to go study and they were just working a regular 9 to 5. People don't even know that they have knowledge. And it's kind of sad because, you know, I think if people had the honor of wanting to seek knowledge, it would solve a lot of problems. But because, look, I see this guy who graduated in computer science, he's making 80 racks starting. He's gotten married. He's got a house already. Then I see the sheikh over here, you know, doing things like, working Uber. No disrespect to
I
that,
feel
because
you. I
there's a
feel
lot
you.
of great that comes out of those things. But
I was one of
I'm
them.
just saying the perspective that we see. You said you were one of them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because we're giving imams
Feel you.
peanuts.
I feel you.
Right? Is there a way that you think we could fix that? How can we invigorate the youth or people to be more interested in taking jobs like this? Is it more pay? And if so, how the heck can we get there?
First off, you said you wanted to be a cook, right? I remember Marami actually was the first person to teach me how to cook eggs. I remember that.
man.
So shout out to Marami.
Shout
All
out.
the eggs,
Hey,
inshallah. I get all the
man.
reward for
Fried
you eating
egg,
them eggs, brother.
we gotta let everybody know how to do
Scrambled
it.
eggs.
This is
that's it.
this is
I remember
something that
that.
I'm gonna ask to a lot of brothers, the Chan brothers and sisters. I take my fried eggs and my eggs in general with soy sauce. So I married when I got married to my wife. She started champollion,
the
right?
debate
She
right
said
there.
she used to eat it with the MSN. I'm like, ugh, the MSN. I'd never ate eggs in MSN before, and it was
Yeah.
good. But I grew up as soy sauce and fried eggs. In the comments, let us know, just for fun,
Has to be the
guys.
sweet M-sending.
It has to be
Has
the
to be
sweet
the sweet
M-Sen.
M-Sen,
Okay, yeah, because I didn't know that. Sorry to digress. I forgot what we
Here
was
in
talking
Lacey,
about.
they
Okay.
eat with fish sauce too, though. So it was a little bit weird for me too, being that I grew up eating with soy sauce. I'm like, what the hell y'all doing over here? Like eating with fish sauce, It was an innovation, basically.
Sorry to digress,
Anyways,
but let's
yeah.
get back to at hand. How do we feel like this issue of nobody is actually motivated to go seek knowledge, and how can we fix that?
Before I answer the question, a lot of friends that I had in Medina, a majority of them, that American students I'm talking about here, they came to Medina already graduated from universities. So they already had degrees. They already had a life set for them. So basically, seeking Islamic knowledge was an extracurricular activity for them. That, okay, I'm finished with my life now. I've graduated, alhamdulillah, got a degree, maybe got my bachelor's perhaps. Now I want to move on to Islamic studies. For cases like myself, and there were some other brothers as well, we didn't have anything to fall back on. Islam was not necessarily Islam, but seeking knowledge or that field, da'wah, was the only thing that we fell back on. Going home, for example, and you don't want to have your teachers be disappointed at you. For example, when I was in Medina, all of my teachers used to tell me, it doesn't matter about a shahada, which is like a diploma or degree. It doesn't matter about this paper. It matters about you helping the community. You're learning this knowledge to help. It's not you learning this knowledge to graduate. You know what I mean? So our main objective, for the least part, at least Medina, was that, go home and teach.
Right.
It doesn't matter who you teach, go home and teach. Doesn't matter how. You can be an imam. You can be a person flying all across the nation to teach. You can be a person working in a da'wah center. You can be a person making podcasts, right? Doesn't matter. You just do, teach the people, basically.
Right.
So doing that, you come back home and you see these brothers and sisters, these young brothers and sisters, they see the imam driving a Camry, for example, right? You ask a kid, for example, myself.
We're not trying to clown on Jan's Camry, all right, guys? It's a nice car, but
It is.
we just being real. We see guys driving Audi 5000, Audi 3000, 5000.
Something like that.
Hey, so
Old school,
whatever,
bro.
But that's
Yeah.
something. That's
Q5
why
or something.
the community, we need to support the imams
I
to give
got
them
you.
Mercedes Benz. They need to be
I
flossing.
feel you. I feel you.
Value like top-notch people, right? I mean, careers and professions.
Let me put it this way. Let's see, like for example, Medina, right? Everyone knows the famous Imam Ali al-Hudayfi, hafidhahullah. The famous Imam. He's the slow old reciter. Brother, that Imam drives the S500 Mercedes, like fully loaded, right?
Right.
Which was a gift, though, because it's a Muslim government at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Okay.
They're going to take care of their Imams, right? One Imam that sticks out that I see as an ideal, that's what an Islamic community needs, it was Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala.
Yes.
This Imam was a baller. And his students was like, yo, Imam, like, what are you doing? Like, you're supposed to be this Zuhud Zahid, which basically lives a simple life, poor.
Asceticism,
And that's
yes.
what's going on with the community is in a lot of masajid, a lot of masjids out there, they're like, the Imam is supposed to be poor.
I was
you're
going to
not-
say that. I thought
right?
imams were poor.
I
The
thought
Imam is
you Imam fi
supposed to be
sabilillah,
poor.
Sufyan.
Exactly. There's always the fi sabilillah card mentioned. Oh, the Imam is supposed to do this for the sake of Allah, but the Imam got kids to feed. You know what I'm saying? He got mouths to feed. So the Imam has to take care. And this was a question that Imam Malik was asked, was, hey, Imam, you're supposed to be fi sabilillah. What are you doing over here balling out? And he says he wanted to teach the people that Imams were people of success. And if you deem money, the more money you have, the more successful. How many celebrities out there that just have money and they have power? right? I remember back in the days, I don't know if she's relevant today, Paris Hilton. She just had money, and look at the power she possessed.
I thought
the
she was Muslim. That's why
Was she?
Nah,
That was Lindsay Lohan or something. Right?
Bro, they had all these rumors, bro.
Oh, she Muslim, or he Muslim or something like that. But anyways, so there are a lot of people out there that just have money, and money equals power, you know?
Right.
So Imam Malik knew how to play it right. Although he didn't have this money in his heart, he just had it in his hands. That was a big difference.
Wow.
You know, say for example, you see your Imam decked out in Supreme or Louis Vuitton. You're like, oh, that's where the fundraiser money's going. That's where the donation money going. Nah, the Imam likes to look good. For example, a young Imam, yeah, he's going to wear the clothes that he thinks is nice, you know. The thing is, when it comes to Imams in general, they think that Imams don't have lives. The only life that the Imam has is to serve the people at any given moment. I can call him at 1 a.m. I can call him at 2 a.m. for problems. I can call him for a nikah, you know. For example, my daughter, you know, something happened. She needs to get married tomorrow, ASAP. I can call him right now. Someone died. I can call him, you know. The Imam needs a vacation also. He needs weeks off, just like a normal job.
Subhanallah.
You know.
Do you ever, and be honest with me, because this is real talk, you know what I mean? Do you ever feel or look at somebody in a different situation and kind of think like, damn, like I could have done that, or
A different situation in regards to like a different job?
Yeah, different job and just different situation. Not saying, alhamdulillah, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our provider and everything like this, but I think it's kind of human nature. And does that ever affect you? Like, man, wow, I could have been doing something else.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think there are a lot of moments actually that I want to give up. You know, sometimes there are people that don't come to my lectures. There are 5 or 10 people. You know, it's very, you know, you get discouraged. You don't want to do anything. People in the khutbah, they'll just say, great khutbah, beautiful khutbah, but there's no growth. There's the community is not moving. Or I face a lot of criticism. Or I face a lot of criticism from community members, from everyone, you know, and it gets overwhelming at times where you're just like, man, what's the point? Why even bother? You know, why don't I live a happy life? You know, and it's not that I suffer as well. It's my family that suffers as well because I come home, you know. And the thing is, you know, about Imam, this job as an Imam, I realized after the years that I've spent being an Imam was it's not a part-time job. It's not even a full-time job. It's a lifetime job. This Imam position that I have, even if I was to let go of this Imam position and I ended up working at Best Buy, for example, or Amazon, everyone that sees me is going to be like, hey, Imam. That title is going to be forever engraved. That although I perhaps 6 or 7 years of me being Imam, yeah, everyone's going to know me as Sheikh Sufyan, you know, Imam Sufyan. You know, oh, he was Imam of Lacey, you know, so that is a lifetime job.
Wow.
You know? It doesn't tie to one masjid here. You know, being an Imam doesn't just, oh, he's the Imam of Lacey. Yeah, but if I go to Seattle, I'm an Imam still. I'm a Sheikh still. If I go to Idaho, if I go to DC, if I go to Texas, he's the Imam. He's a Sheikh. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's to answer your first question, is Imam just lead the prayer? For example, you have Imam Ahmad, Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi. Guaranteed they were not just Imam, as we call Imam, at the masjid leading the 5 daily prayers. That's like the bare minimum, bro. Like that's the littlest thing that they do is just lead the prayers. There's more to an Imam, you know. Right. Imam I would consider, you know, as Imam in Arabic means to be in front. That is what an Imam does. He's in front. You know, he faces the problems before it faces the community. Kind of like, you know, if a person's in the front and to shield the people away from the wind as a father or, you know, someone that is responsible in a household to protect the family. That first person in the front is to get all the heavy hits, and then the rest gets, you know, don't get hit that much,
Deep,
I
brother.
guess. You know what I mean?
Deep. Go ahead.
No, I was going to just say, like, just to follow up on your response, like, you know, in the social work profession and, you know, in 2020, self-care was something big, you know, and as an Imam, you know, you hear a lot and you seek a lot. I'm pretty sure that puts a toll partially onto your mental health and to your own body as well, right? What are some resources that you turn to as an Imam or for yourself that can alleviate some of that burden on your shoulder, that weight on yourself?
I think, and shout out to all the Imams and the Sheikhs out there, I think personally Sheikhs and Imams need the most help, if anything. They probably are suffering mental illnesses that they don't want to talk about. It may be taboo. It may be something that, you know, I just pray more, I just fast more. You know, I think, you know, when it comes to mental illnesses, although they hear it from the youth, that, oh, you guys are suffering. They don't even realize that they themselves are suffering. The Prophet ﷺ himself was suffering through a mental illness. Now, but it wasn't something channeled into his actions. That's where you are judged. That's the difference here, where you basically channel those thoughts and those feelings into action, right? So I think imams and sheikhs, they need the most spiritual healing and spiritual help. For myself, I'm still young, alhamdulillah, right? I'll listen to the sheikhs that you listen to on YouTube for inspiration, for help, for guidance, right? Because I need to hear from someone else. Sometimes I hear from normal average Joes, average people, brothers and sisters. They'll come up to me with advice. They may think of that advice as insignificant and small, but I see it as divine. I see it as if Allah is telling me through this individual of that advice that resonates with me. You know what I mean?
I got 2 questions for you. I mean, the first one, and these are kind of some big ones. This one might get you in a little bit of trouble. You okay with that, Sufyan?
Yeah, I'm already in trouble being on this podcast, brother.
Real talk, no cap.
Yes.
Sufyan, so when you first went to go study, in Medina, you learn a certain way. You come back to America, different environment. You become the imam. Has any of your stances changed, and have you gotten any backlash for having stances changed?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think a lot of friends in Medina, if they ever get the hands of this podcast, they'll be like, "Oh, he's canceled a long time ago, right?" SubhanAllah, when I was a Medina student, I remember, when you're just young, you think it's my way or the highway. I actually do recall a story when I just, would come back in the summer to give khutbahs and what have you. Sheikh Abdul Bari, shout out to Sheikh Abdul Bari, he told me, he's like, you got to give khutbahs now. You got to do it. He forced me to do it. So he forced me to do a khutbah, and I remember we used to have it in the New Holly Library, Jummah khutbah in the New Holly Library, and there was a time where I was doing a khutbah, and it was more of a my way or the highway type thing. So my khutbah the whole time was my way or the highway. This is the way I want it. This is the way you should receive it, And there was a brother in the front. He had a watch. I don't even think he had a watch. I don't know. But he did with his wrist like, yo, time's up. Like, Jummah's over, right? So me being this young, just student of knowledge, and I wasn't really that wise, I wasn't, I wasn't seasoned yet. And I saw him do this little clock motion like, brother, it's time's up. 30 minutes is over. We got to go work. I just made it longer, right? And that's something I would never do now. Now I'm trying to make my khutbahs short and sweet.
He used the clock, or he get... Which one was it?
I think both. I think, yeah, he did both, And I remember...
That means it's really time to go.
Yeah, and then I made it really long. So I think, throughout... And a lot of students, and subhanAllah, I see that now from Medina students, or not Medina students, but just students in knowledge in general, young students of knowledge in general, where... they just think my way, the highway, you have to do it like this. I remember I used to criticize imams when I was a student. I'm like, why is the imam going to do that? Astaghfirullah, what's wrong with you, man? That's not permissible. There's aqwa, there's sayings of the scholars that go against what he's doing. And subhanAllah, lo and behold, I become an imam and do those same opinions. I follow those same opinions. For example, here in Olympia, we follow calculations, which we're not going to talk about now.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, we follow calculations, right? Now, a lot of communities are like, whoa, what's wrong with the imam? How does he do that? Wallahi, if I was to look at myself, the younger Sufyan when I was in Medina, and look at the older Sufyan, like, this brother's tripping. I ain't going to Olympia. Heck no. For Ramadan, I'm out of there, bro. We're going to celebrate Eid a different day. What's he doing calculations? Do you see what I'm saying? So that's just one of the stances that has changed throughout the years.
And this kind of relates to, and this is my last question. I think Hamid has one last question as well too. What is the difficulties of working in such a close-knit community like that, where I know your mom, I know your dad,
CNN,
yeah, exactly.
Network.
CNN, Channel News, OGs out here, maybe trying to undermine you. Do you see those things happening?
That's something that, wallahi, that's one of the, whenever I do think of leaving a community, especially like, for example, just within the Chime community in Olympia and Seattle, just leaving the entire community is because it's too tight-knit. For example, if they have a problem with myself, what they'll do is they'll contact my dad or contact my mom. You know what I'm saying? If I don't show up for prayers, for example, which is like the most haram thing you can do as an imam. What? He's not here for Maghrib? Astaghfirullah, right? So they'll contact my dad. And, you know, when your dad says something, you know, it's your dad. You know what I mean? What are you going to say? You know, your dad's like, hey, Sufyan, you got to go to prayer. They're over here. You know, don't put a bad reputation for the family, right? Don't put dishonor to the family. So you got to do your job. And it's just like, oh, you get overwhelmed as well. So now you have community members bagging on you. Then you have your dad bagging on you. Then your mom, which is like 40 miles away, calling you, is like, yo, I hear some people over here, you know, criticizing you, making fun of you or whatever, doing this to you. Do something about it. And you're just like, so you just wish some days you go to a community where no one knows who you are. They don't know your family. They're not going to contact your family. They're going to contact you. You know what I mean? So it is a little bit difficult. It does come with challenges, but alhamdulillah, for the most part, I mean, I am here for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah,
so
I think we just highlighted a lot of negatives. I mean, just real quick, brother,
Okay,
tell them it's not that bad, brother.
It's not bad at all. Like another question I think was to be asked was, if I was to tell my young self, you know, say for example, the young Sufyan, 17-year-old, like, hey, I want to be an imam. He was to ask me, the older Sufyan, like, what should I do? Or give me some tips on being an imam. If there's any young people out there that want this career, I should say, or big life decision of being an imam, is don't give up. You know, it's going to be hard. It's a road that is a difficult road, but understand that this is the inheritance of the prophets. And we know in the Quran that prophets dealt with much more worse, you know, much more problems than an average Joe. And a prophet, for example, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he dealt with adversity, he dealt with problems. He saw his companions die in front of his eyes, you know. So it was a lot more difficult for him as an imam, as a prophet, as a husband, as a leader to go through this. So I would advise a young person that wants to be an imam, don't give up. Yeah, I know it's going to be difficult, but hold on tight. And you will be rewarded in this dunya, but obviously the reward is far more greater in the afterlife.
Yeah, don't give up, for real. Jazakallah khair, Imam Sufyan, for, you know, sharing your story and a little bit about your experiences of being a young imam. And again, I just put myself in your shoes, you know, and try to just see, like, you know, the life and the challenges of what imam, the pros and cons of what an imam has to do and the things that they carry. What is your bottom line statement of this episode, and what do you want our listener to think about after hearing what you have to say?
I would say appreciate your imam. Wallahi, brothers and sisters, they don't get the respect they deserve. The effort, the work that they have to do, they're like a headless chicken sometimes. They're just working, they're grinding, consistently grinding every single day.
And no thank yous.
And no thank yous, you know, and no thank yous. You know, although they're like, oh, their thanks is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, but, you know, whoever doesn't thank the people doesn't thank Allah. The Prophet ﷺ famous hadith, you know what I mean? So be grateful that you have an imam. Be grateful that you have an imam that speaks to you. You know what I mean? Be grateful that you have an imam that you can go back to for lessons, for advice, for suggestions and what have you. Appreciate your imam. There are communities, perhaps 80% of the nation's masajid around the world don't have an imam. Wow. That's like a car that doesn't have a driver. Right? Wow, the funny thing is, if a car doesn't have a driver, it ain't going nowhere. But the funny thing is, everyone that's in the car says they're qualified to drive. That's the issue here. Everyone in the car, and that's what I want to say, my bottom line statement is, everyone in the car is like, I can drive, but they don't have a professional driver. They can drive, but they don't know where they're going.
Right.
They can drive, but they don't know the destination. You need a driver that has a vision. You need a driver that has a goal. You need a driver that knows where he's going. He has Google Maps on his phone. Everyone in the car is like, yeah, I'm qualified. I can lead the prayer. Sirata lazina. You know, I can lead the prayer. Iza ja. You know, I can lead the prayer and do all this and that. But everyone says that. Why is there mechanics giving khutbas? Why is there doctors giving khutbas? Right? Why is there some average Joe giving khutbas? I want to highlight something about khutbas that is very important. Khutbas, you know, sometimes as imams, whoever is an imam that's listening out there, brothers, if there's people that are listening to khutbas, that 30-minute time frame is where they learn Islam. It's very important on what topic you pick in a khutbah. Yeah, for the classes, for the lectures, for the bayans, whatever you want to call it, halaqas and stuff like that, you can freestyle whatever you want to do. But for khutbahs, it gotta be precise. It gotta be a topic that's relevant to everyone. You know what I mean? Because people that are coming to the masjid, they only come once a week, brother. They only come once a week,
right.
And this is the time that you gotta get them. right? And if you're over here in your khutbah saying things that the community don't even understand, but they don't even know what you're talking about, you don't relate. Perhaps the topic is a very beautiful topic, but it's how you present the delivery of the topic isn't good.
Right.
Then they're not going to know their Islam. You know what I mean? And within that 30-minute time frame. So be a good driver.
Let's support the drivers.
Support
They're
the
taking us
drivers.
somewhere nice, guys.
Yeah.
And that's a reminder to myself. I'm a listener. I'm a viewer, and I heard this beautiful story. And you know, we can't just have anybody driving out there. We might have a driver that's gonna drive your car into the mud. You know what I'm saying? He can get you stuck in the mud.
Hold on. Before you even continue, when I said the Sirat al-Lazina and all Izaja, right? By the way, if you do realize that and you're trying to practice your tajweed and it ain't getting better, trust me, Allah's not going to be like, read Quran to me. You might Sirat al-Lazib, like, oh, sorry, you can't go to Jannah. Nah, it doesn't work. I'm just saying there are brothers out there that just stick to that recitation and they don't want to improve.
They don't further their learning.
Exactly. There needs to be growth.
Man. Thank you, Sufyan. We really appreciate the time and
My pleasure.
inviting us to your humble abode.
Alhamdulillah.
We're doing this session at his house. If you heard any
Inshallah.
background noise, freezer running, that's because we at his house. But that's what's beautiful about Real Talk. We take it anywhere. We really want to hear what people have to say. Again, if you guys like this episode, push the like button, subscribe to our channel. If you guys have any comments, I read them. The brothers out here, we read them. The sisters out here, they read them. Put something out there. How do you feel about this topic? Do you feel that imams are underappreciated? And again, if you guys have topics, feel free to share it with us. Anything that we've said that was incorrect, it's from us. And anything good that we said, it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We thank you guys for listening. We hope to hear you get from you guys next. Hope you guys are listening next week. Hopefully next week I can give out some news that if we're gonna get onto some podcast platforms, we're really looking on that. We're always looking for growth. Hopefully I'll have some better news for you guys next week. So until then, this is the
Real Talk.
No Cap
Podcast.
Oh, we have to do that again? Okay. Nah, we good, man. Real Talk, No Cap Podcast. Thank you guys.
We gon' say the least, but we gon' do them all. Coming from the bottom, never bought. Lots of my brothers, they went go. I said lots of my brothers, they went go. We gon' say the least, but we gon' do them all. Coming from the bottom, never bought. Lots of